Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hi, and welcome to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm Marie Stella, your host from Melbourne, Australia. Let's start the show. Welcome back to the show. Trust and communication are the unsung heroes of any successful relationship, but they aren't things that you can just sprinkle on your partnership like hundreds and thousands on fairy bread. It's a science. It takes time, it takes effort. Enter couple rituals, and we've got just the person to help us understand how to use couple rituals to nurture that trust and get our communication channels humming like a well-oiled machine. In the studio with us today is counsellor Roohi Ahmad from Connect with Counselling, and we're picking a brain to uncover those rituals for couples to reiterate over time, and this could be useful whether you're in the honeymoon phase or looking for a little relationship CPR. Hi Roohi, lovely having you here. How are you going today?
Hi, Marie. Thank you for having me. I'm going well.
That's amazing. All right, I love to get to know you and in your line of work, what's the most common problem that couples come to you with?
It's interesting that you asked that because what I have noticed when couples come in, the most common thing that they bring up is communications. And they say that we have communication issues and we are not talking well. Sometimes they have an idea what's going wrong, and sometimes they don't know. So they would be like, we are having conflicts. And when I break that down, I notice that, yes, there's probably not spending time enough and they are missing that connection.
Yeah, I do notice that that's one of the bigger problems in a lot of my past relationships as well. And that's a great introduction to our topic today. But before we get further into detail, we'd like to get to know you better. This is Have You Met Roohi Ahmad? So what do you like to do in your spare time?
I would say I love to read, but what I often find is I'm so tired that it becomes a bit tricky. So I would watch some TV, go for a walk. I like to jog a little bit or write my thoughts.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I feel like reading books can be really, really tiring. It's more tiring than people make it out to be, okay? But what are some of your favorite books?
There are lots, actually. I read a lot of nonfiction, so anything on psychology, sociology, philosophy. And now you're getting the drift why I find it a bit heavy. I do the work and then I come back. But I'm reading books on couples and a few modalities, all work related.
Do you have a favorite at the moment?
I'm reading a book on emotion-focused couples therapy. So I would say, I'm really finding it interesting. It's by Dr. Sue Johnson, and I've done the training. So I'm just following up with that. And it's interesting how, couples rituals and connections pan out in the book.
And what's the biggest takeaway you've learned so far from this book?
It's important to understand each other, I think, and consciously slowing down and understanding that underlying every action or thought process or issues there are emotions that's there that we don't normally identify, and we get down to it, it can change the relationship overall.
You said earlier that you enjoy watching films as well during your spare time. So do you have any favorites?
I watch a lot of different genres. Initially, I used to enjoy a lot of psychological thrillers and dramas, but now I think I'm just wanting some light comedy. 12 Angry Men is my all-time favorite.
What is it about?
It's how a thought process and a dialogue and conversation can change everything. If you would have watched the movie, you would know how, the jury, one person doesn't agree and they present a different perspective. Initially, there's hesitation and people are not on board. But when they start to listen to each other, they really try to see the perspective of a different side of the story. And that's taking perspective, which is so important in relationships.
That's really interesting. I love that a lot of the media that you consume has something to do with psychology as well. And do you end up psychologically analyzing these types of media?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you find that
Yeah.
enjoyable as well?
Yeah, it is enjoyable. It's interesting you say that because there is psychology behind everything we do, and relationships are very important.
Yeah.
So we end up having that somewhere or the other. I wouldn't say I analyze, but I would say I learn a lot.
That's really nice. Is there a podcast that you listen to?
I wouldn't say anything in specific, but it depends on the day. Like if I'm listening to, a topic on memory one day, or maybe how to break down things, and do a lot on meditation and mindfulness, and, how to soothe your brain, because that's important and it's a part of my de-stressing routine as well.
Yeah, I imagine that would really help to alleviate some of the like psychological thriller that you enjoy watching, and then a little mindfulness soothing in there would be really, really good to break it up a bit. Is there someone that you look up to in life?
I would say I look up to different characteristics of people. It doesn't matter, who they are. Growing up, definitely I used to look up to people in my family, and, all the important figures, as, people who we know, famous personalities. But as I grew up, I started picking up traits and habits more than one person.
That's a really good way of putting it, because I think when I get asked this question personally, I find it very hard to answer, because I look up to so many people in life for various reasons. And it's hard to pinpoint exactly one person. It also puts a lot of pressure on this one person to be like, hey, you're my role model.
Yeah. That's right.
All right. Thank you so much for telling me a bit more about yourself. Now we'll move into the interview section. And the first question that we like to ask our guests, because it can be different for different people. What is a relationship in your opinion? How would you describe a relationship?
A relationship is a connection between two people. The way they connect through rituals, through words, expressions, or, they get pulled towards each other. And this is expressed through their behaviors and the way they express through words. You can call it love, you can call it affection, it can become a friendship, it can be a relationship. Some relationships we are born into, like to our parents, we don't choose those relationships, but we still inculcate the bond with our parents. The parent-sibling bond is inculcated and built within that relationship dynamic. And we have relationship with friends, with the society we live in, and the world at large as well. So I personally believe that we are never without relationship. We're born into one, and when we leave this world, we were into some or the other relationship.
That's a really good way of putting it. And so in the context of a romantic relationship specifically, do you think that it still holds the same meaning, structure, and importance as decades ago?
That's a very interesting question, Marie. The Australian Institute of Family Studies, they published a report in July 2020 on relationships and how they've changed over time. What they've identified is the growing trends away from marriage and more towards cohabitation without the intention of marrying. So marriages are declining, but that doesn't mean relationships are. And people are staying together more and having more relationships without, wanting to get married at the end. So it doesn't mean the commitment is changed. It's just that the institution of marriage may be changing its shape.
Yeah.
And there's more acceptance of diversity in Australia. So there are different types of relationships that are being, inculcated and formed. And the inclination is also towards more finding love and passion. Initially, it was like, we needed to have a suitable personalities, common backgrounds, and men can provide and women can take care of the household and take care of the kids, and that was enough. So companionship was what was important earlier. And now it's more, and then it became about friendship. If you're good friends, we can be, partners as well. And now we see that couples wouldn't settle for anything less than love and passion.
Yeah.
And I believe what I've seen in my work is commonalities and, having common backgrounds and common interests is still important. And people can find love even through diversity. So even if you're very different, there's still some commonalities that work. But definitely there's more need for love and being understood. So I think that's where you'll see that in the last few decades. As a society, we have seen that changing to now we wanting that we will settle for love. And I could be myself in a relationship. So yes, I will adjust and collaborate, but I also want my partner to do the same.
Yeah, that's really interesting that that reflects in the data as well. And, there's a wider variety now of types of relationships, like queer peer relationships or polyamorous relationships. And those types of relationships aren't any less valid than stereotypical relationships. It could mean the same amount of commitment, just it looks different. And that's really interesting to me. So now moving on to couple rituals. What are they and how do they look like? What do they look like? How do they work?
Now, what I will say to start with, I will quote a psychotherapist, Esther Perel, who says that routines get us through the day and rituals guide us through life. And I believe that, rituals are something that give a deeper meaning and a greater, if you look at it from a philosophical way, a guide to where we are going, what are we doing, why we are even doing what we are doing. Otherwise, life gets into a routine in a different way, like some more survival.
Yeah.
We get a job, get married, settle down, have kids, and just repeat it. But when we have rituals, we consciously slow down and choose to connect and find meaning together as to why we are doing it and what's the sense behind this. And that keeps us connected and I would say grounded in what we are doing. Doctors Julie and John Gottman, they're American psychologists, they've talked a lot about couples rituals, and they talk about rituals of gratitude, in which how you can express gratitude to each other to avoid taking each other for granted and actually allow yourself to also recognize what my partner is doing for me. So rituals are important activities of connection that keeps couples together and gives them meaning to their relationship.
That's really interesting that you put it that way, because I don't think I ever thought of couple rituals to be different from couple routines. I always thought them to be the same thing, but it does make a lot of sense that rituals are meant to like slow you down and give you a bit more room to think and appreciate what you have. And so in that retrospect, what is the science behind how couple rituals might reinforce the trust between couples?
I like the way you said science behind couple rituals. And there is a lot of science, neurologically, the way that our brain is modeled and our nervous system is soothed by connection. So when we are engaging in couple rituals, we are attaching, partners attached to each other. And when they attach this bond of safety, it actually soothes the nervous system as well. And it helps them go out in the world and do whatever they need to do. And when there is adversity or they're facing a challenge, this bond actually acts as a cushion, And scientifically, when we grow as children, we attach with our parents, and the way our parents attach with us, it gives us a sense of safety, and it creates the relationship map for us and how relationships feel safe and emotionally soothing. When we grow up in intimate couple relationships, this attachment manifests. The way we will attach to a partner will be in the way that our parents attach to us, and not that we are thinking of them as parents, but this attachment is in the same way it's manifesting, but also it's a bit different because it's mutual. So here both partners have to soothe their partners as well as get soothed as well. So the attachment theory is John Bowlby's, and there's a lot of research on that. But what it talks about is that we all need connection, and when we are attaching, we are seeking a safe space for ourselves. Here the couple rituals actually help, because we are consciously choosing our partner to build that safety for us, to soothe our nervous system so that, we are aware that we are safe and protected.
So what are some examples of couple rituals that you've seen, specifically common ones and also peculiar ones? I do really want to hear the peculiar ones.
I really love the way that you're putting the questions, the common ones and the peculiar ones. I was going into that, but I'll start with the common ones. We know that is spend some time together every day, check in with each other, send maybe love texts or smileys or love emoticons, or we all know that. But what is important is you connect right from getting up in the morning, the way you'll greet your partner, good morning, love, it takes a fraction of a second, but you're turning toward your partner. And this is what the Gottmans have talked a lot about. So you've taken the time to really look at your partner and say good morning, or how did you sleep well? Whatever that is, it's very little and very small. Maybe having coffee or tea together, and just talking about your daily plan or what it looks like. Take 10 minutes to sit down, have breakfast, if you have the time. I know it's a bit chaotic when you've got kids, but even when you're doing these things, the survival things, the daily things, you can still make eye contact, look at each other, and, just generally just chit-chat, and when you're going through the day, you can just connect and give a call sometimes. If you can't, it's okay. And then we talk about hanging out, going to movies, all of those things. But if you're connecting through those activities, that will indicate that you are creating that space. Sometimes we're just watching parallelly or doing something, but not feeling it. It's important that what you feel during the activity that you're doing, because that makes you feel soothed and connected. Some of the peculiar ones would be, taking your word there, a couple is free to create what they want to. They don't have to always do what they know. They can create one, They can walk and talk in the house, and then say if one partner is feeling restless, can we walk and talk in the house? They can go for a walk and talk about things. Having some time together, maybe doing something, a hobby together at home that makes sense to them. Some couples, some of my clients actually connect through organizing their pantry, believe me.
That's adorable.
Yeah, and they don't mind it. They love it. Initially there was conflict, but they found their way to make sense of it, and they enjoyed the process. And now cleaning for them has become enjoyable because they're doing it mindfully. They're conscious of what they're doing. I wouldn't say that, that's everyone needs to do that, but what's important is that they're connecting. And sometimes when they are watching TV, movies, they're talking about it. What makes sense? It's not they're just watching and, we spend time. What they're doing is they're choosing to talk about it. What they thought of the characters, what they thought of the storyline. Now, while they are learning about the movie or, having that fun time, they're also learning about each other as to what makes sense to them. What are my partner's values? And a lot of that. So when you are consciously, mindfully engaging in any, ritual, it becomes yours. It becomes theirs, and it's they own that. They don't have to. But it's important that you keep distractions away. Really listen to your partner. Smile. Hold their hands. Make eye contact. Really be kind. So you're not only you are soothing your partner, you're soothing your own nervous system and yourself too.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that couple rituals aren't just hanging out. It's different because you are mindfully there. You are making sure that your partner at that moment is the priority, and you are keeping that in mind. Is that correct?
Yes, you've got that. Whatever we are doing, we are. It felt like a bit of a pressure to you, Marie, but yes.
So trust is a vital foundation for any healthy relationship. What does it look like on a day-to-day basis, and why is it so essential for couples to cultivate that trust?
Trust develops when partners start to feel emotionally safe with each other. So at the beginning of the relationship, there's excitement and there's a lot of curiosity to know about each other. What are their interests in spending time? And it feels nice to connect and you really are into it. So there's less expectation, but there's more of fun and anticipation. Now, as couples settle into the relationship, then expectations start to surface. They've always been there that, will be safe relationally and emotionally. And they are, and because both of them are having fun and excited, when, that's a middle phase I would like to call. But once they start to, once they've committed and getting into the rhythm of life and they get more warmer, I would say, in the relationship, there's certain expectations. There's expectation that, when I ask something, you will honor that. And when I expect, you will be there. And both the partners are expecting that. Now, what happens is that the trust is that if my partner's done something or not done something I wanted, then maybe they don't care for me. It's not that we are consciously thinking. It's a very little subtle thing that just keeps adding. For example, if I've asked my partner to get groceries on the way and they forgot, once or twice, it's okay. I can understand. I'll feel sad. But if it happens on a regular basis, then it starts to feel like as if they don't care.
It's a pattern.
It becomes a pattern, right? Yeah. And it may be something else is completely going on with the partner. But what happens with the person who's feeling that, requesting that, and their partner is not honoring for whatever reason? It feels that there's less care. And then it keeps adding or keeps chipping away from the trust. And we are not thinking about it as trust, but it feels like it becomes like an overall, philosophical concept there, very underlying, as I was talking about. Emotionally, it feels that if I ask my partner for something, they may not do it because I'm not thinking that they didn't get groceries. What I'm thinking is they didn't do what I ask. So it's a little bit of that. And it's I believe that daily interactions form the building blocks of a relationship. So when these things are happening, and this is just an example, there are so many things that happen. We're not stopping to think and pause and deliberately, relate things back to trust. It's automatically developing through the connection I feel. And there's so many stresses. We interact with so many people. We go out in different environments. All of those things can come in between couples and can impact their trust. So that's where the couples ritual, I keep coming back to that. It's very important where you take the time to slow down and talk about things or do things to build that connection.
And so what are some common myths or misconceptions about trust in romantic relationships and how couple rituals can help with trust?
It's interesting you say that because there are. One of the most common one that I see every day is if I trust my partner, if we are in a relationship, my partner will never upset me, never make a mistake, never do something that'll be hurtful. Whereas this is impractical. We all have our quirks and flaws, and
we're all human.
Yeah. I will make mistakes and will mess up. But that's where if you are having a couple rituals, you're getting the time to understand each other. You can be updated on things we do, but it's very difficult to keep track of how we are feeling about things, what's going on. Maybe it's a simple thing at work that makes me keep forgetting things. To my partner, it's hurtful, and it does happen. It's happening simultaneously. But there's no time to talk about it, and it feels like my partner will always do what I want and always keep me happy. But then it's not practical. And when we take the time to slow down, we realize that, yes, they still love us with all their flaws and quirks, and the same is for both of them together. So knowing that it's not about that and taking the time to talk about it and say that, hey, I felt this when you said that. It's so very important. That's where taking perspectives come in, where you try to understand each other and say what you felt, because giving feedback is important too. If you don't let them, share what you're feeling, then you're holding it, and that may cause resentment. That's from the root, from underlying. It's actually damaging the relationship.
So, in what way can couple rituals help with building this trust, especially in romantic relationships?
Couple rituals create emotional safety and a safe space for couples. I think, as you were saying earlier, relationships are effortful. They require nurturing. Always give this example, like, think about an exotic plant that you might have gotten from somewhere or ordered from overseas, and they're really...
Rafflesia. It's a Southeast Asian plant, flower, and it's humongous, and it's kind of ugly, but that's why
exotic.
I love it. It's like huge and orange and very round and has yellow spots. It's kind of ugly, but that's the reason I love it.
You need to send me a pic of
It's
that.
also very pungent. That's the word they use in science to describe strong smelling things.
See there, I learned about this. Maybe I can quote that.
Yeah. So Rafflesia. That's my exotic flower.
Okay, so think about that. It's like, you've got that exotic flower and you know that, it's amazing. You talk about it to your friends and you're so proud and you're happy. And you do care for it, right? Whatever it needs, you weed, you take it out in the sun, you water it, and it's a pride of your place and you're so happy. But slowly you get used to it being there, and it's there the way that, you are. It's like we reach homeostasis. It got adjusted in a way. And slowly you're caring a little for it, and you're expecting it to do what it needs to do, and it's doing probably. But with time, you're caring less and less. So it's not that you don't like it or love it any less. It's just that the effort is a bit less because it's effortful. Again, it takes time and it takes effort. Relationships are like that. We consciously choose to nurture it, not because it's easy, it's because we want it in our lives, and it is an important part of us, of who we are, because it's not without us, it's within us. As I was saying, we are into this relationship, it matters. And I'm not getting love from my partner, I'm actually reciprocating. So we take the effort consciously to nurture that relationship by doing whatever it is. What may work from one couple may not work for another. So it's like, we compare, we get into that zone. So we focus on our partner and ourselves, what's working for us and what's important there. So you're taking that effort to nurture and feel pride in the fact that I am taking that effort to nurture my relationship. Now, both partners doing the same is that works like magic, even if it's hard. Even if one partner is doing, at least they can talk about it. Hey, I'm doing, I felt like I need this too. So that creates a space for open feedback with kindness and respect. Of course, I'm not saying that it's always going to be like that, but what happens is the more connected we feel, the more safe we feel, we have that emotional protective factor to know that even if we say something, give feedback, we would be safe. So it's a daily thing. It's not at a specific time. So it's like that, and it creates, and we are not even aware of it. Generally the world feels better, stresses feel lighter, don't react as much, and we would see that our moods are also improving. So a little thing that we are taking time to connect and to turn to a partner is actually impacting our life and ourselves individually as well.
Yeah, and I suppose this could also be applied to friendships and other relationships as well, maybe not to the same caliber. But for example, if I just from whatever you've just mentioned to me, I'm just thinking like, oh, that's how I treat a friend as well that I cherish in my life, and maybe I won't do it every day, nor do I hope to move in with them at some point. But it is more or less the same technique. Technique is a weird way to describe how you're treating a friend.
Maybe strategy tool, the way to be.
Yeah, something like that. And I think not just friendships as well, like family. Like if I want a more open relationship with my family, for example, that's something that I might do, like playing Scrabble with my mom, which helped with our relationship. I don't know, actually, like it helped when I was losing and she wasn't so competitive, but then afterwards that was just like not fun. But it did help for us to spend time together during COVID, and those sorts of things. So that's how I see this ritual be reflected in other relationships as well. And so are there any contributing factors couples should consider when incorporating trust building rituals into their relationship?
It's very significant what you said, that all relationships need nurturing, and we consciously do that. Of course, different levels, and we choose what's more important and what's not. And any relationship, being honest is very important. I know still the best policy, I would say. It's not always easy. When I say honest, it's more about transparency. It's more about, I am able to share what I'm feeling. Yeah. And you do that with respect and kindness, not just for your partner, but also for yourself. Letting them know, hey, this is what I felt, or, babes, which I always say that, babes, what you said there didn't make sense. I wish we could do that, actually. That was hurtful, and we are being respectful. So we're not saying how dare or how can my partner do this. No, we can. It can happen. So when we are kind, actually, if you'll see, interestingly, what we expect from ourselves is what we start to expect from others, and we are not even aware of it. I'm being hard on myself. I have to get this. I have to get this done. Inadvertently, I'm doing the same with my partners and in relationships too, whether it's at work or it's in the family. So when we are honest and transparent, it makes it easier. Not talking about you did that and I'm giving the feedback that you, that becomes a bit problematic. You say, I felt that and I was feeling this, or I was feeling hurt, or that didn't work for me. That creates a platform and open space for the couples to then talk about or repair or understand where it's going. And it's okay, because we grow through relationships. We grow into relationships and through them. When we are stuck or we are in pain or we don't know where we're going, that's the time, because we literally don't know. And we are learning at that time, because learning is painful. It can be, I say, painful in the form of effort. So we really don't know, because there is no manual given to any relationship or any couple, or there is no perfect relationship guide for any particular relationship aspect. Yeah, we all learn I always like to say we learn on the job in a way, because every two people are different.
You do learn on the job. Yeah.
So I think these and turning to the person, respecting them. Imagine if someone is talking to you and you are turned somewhere on the phone, or phone can be just now. That's one of the things that phones become one of the topics of conflicts. That I'm talking and you're always on the phone, or you're always on the phone and I can't talk, or when I'm talking you get on the phone. So it's like you're choosing through, when you're doing couples rituals, you will consciously choose not to use your phone. But also, if we are cutting off when someone is talking, we are not allowing you to say what you want to say, or we're going on talking and not letting the other person speak. All of these can indicate disrespect and disinterest, and it can impact the relationship, no matter which relationship you are in.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And I actually did hear from somewhere or someone that a good habit to practice is putting away your phone completely, because when you have the phone out there, even if it's switched off or on silent or something, your body or your attention naturally gravitates toward the phone screen, like from time to time. So it might be a good idea to just put it away. And even if it's just for like half an hour or an hour or something like that. Yeah. So in your experience, what are some common mistakes that couples tend to make and should be mindful of when attempting to build trust through the rituals? How can they avoid these mistakes and ensure that their efforts are effective and not all for loss,
Thank you, Marie, again for the question. You're asking very interesting questions. You're really making me think. It's important that couples remind themselves, why are they engaging in rituals? Why is their relationship important? Why are they doing what they're doing? Because it does happen in daily life. Things get in the way, and that's the couples can put themselves at the end. Sometimes they feel guilty. Other things need more, focus. Chores need to be done. Kids need to be attended. And especially when you have little kids, things get in the way. So it's important that you remind what's the significance of why we're doing and why it's important to us, and we need that. However, if things happen, if you can't really get time, that's okay. And again, respect and kindness comes in. It's like, all right, we are not able to do that because we both are managing things as a team. So even if they are not able to spend time, they know that they are a team, they are bonded, and they are taking care of life or things in their own ways, but they are still together because they are the core of the family that they create. If they have kids or they don't, they are the core. And that, if they are nurturing it, the times when they can't, they still know, because again, that's their protective factor, and they respect that. And if they are not enjoying the couple ritual, let's say, the common ones that you were talking about, oh, great, let's just, do this couple games. And there are lots of couple games and questionnaires that you can find online. But the other partner is not feeling okay, or maybe they're not enjoying it as much, or maybe they would like to do something else. Talking about it is important. When you respect yourself and when you respect your partner, you are able to express to them and let them know how you're feeling. The other partner then acknowledges that and doesn't make it about them. Like it's not about he or she, me or versus you. It's about, all right, it's not working for one person. Let's find out something else. Let's create our own couple rituals. So being honest, respectful, and kind to yourself and to each other is very important, because every couple is different. The way they'll do things doesn't have to be the way that everyone is done. But what is important is you are turning towards each other, and listening and respecting and validating that.
Are there any resources such as books, workshops, or online platforms that you recommend to couples that might be interested in trying out these trust building rituals? And how can they access further guidance and support in this area?
Thank you, Marie. I would love to share what has worked for my clients, and people can have a read through and see what works for them. They can jump on the Gottman Institute website. Doctors John and Julie have done their research on couples for decades, and there's heaps of resources there. There are webinars, events, even courses for them. There are quizzes and assessments.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah, and lots of books and stuff that they can read, and they can themselves sign up and do it as couples. And Esther Perel's website also has lots of resources and articles on relationship intelligence and how to navigate through relationships. I recommend it a lot to my clients, a book by Dr. Russ Harris on Act with Love. So this is especially insightful for clients going through challenging relationships and accepting how it is and navigating through that. And Dr. Sue Johnson's resources on emotionally focused couples therapy is also very helpful. They can jump on my website or give me a call if they want to have a chat.
Thank you so much for that, Roohi. Now we're moving on to the practice/habit section, and this is where I'll ask you some questions about the everyday application of what you have shared. What is a practice that you would do to improve trust and communication in your romantic relationship?
Thanks, Marie. It's quite significant. I believe that having chats is important. Little chats, big chats, having weekend chats, but everyday life, you're connecting through that. But also, however much it's important for us to express, it's also important that we listen. Sometimes we may not have, something as urgent as we want to say, my partner have. It's important that we pause and listen there. So we consciously, again, slowing down to turning your attention to a partner and what they're saying. It's important to build trust. Again, it indicates that we are there and we are listening.
Mm-hmm. So in sum, we have the daily chats, DC, and the long chats, heart to hearts, H to H. That's how we can put it. That's easy to remember. DC, H to H. And then you can bring up to your partner, like, hey, do you want a DC or do you have time for a H to H right now?
That's very interesting and funny,
how
I
fun
find.
Is that? Yeah.
You love your acronyms, don't you?
I do love my acronyms, yeah. Mm-hmm. They just make things a bit more fun.
Yeah, they do.
So what are 3 good things about this practice?
It's, as you said, builds trust. Yeah, and it builds safe connections, makes me feel connected to my partner, and it also helps us grow together, because we are changing. And when we are having a connections and we are chatting and we are opening up, we're growing together and we are more in tune how we're growing. And it's not just about things in our career or in relationships or, but as people in our thoughts and emotions as well, we are changing. So one partner may have loved coffee and they don't know anymore, and they can say in passing, but if you know the thought process, because I think coffee gives me gas, or maybe not great for my sleep. So that way you know that maybe that's how my partner is growing. It's nothing you will do about it. It's more about knowledge. I think the Gottmans call it the love maps. You get to know your partner more. So this helps.
That's interesting. And are there any challenges to this practice?
Actually, there are several challenges there. Lack of time.
Ooh, no, keep going. Yeah, tell us all of the challenges.
So I was talking literally lack of time in day-to-day life. You have to go do this, trips, and these things, programs can get in our life. We have to go to finish this, get dinner, all of that. So it's understandable, especially when you have younger children. It can be difficult, but just do it when you can. Keeping it a bit flexible is important, as long as we know that the moment we get the time, we can do it. The other times can be external stresses, something you're going through, big events, even positive events like weddings, childbirth, holidays. They all can get in the way of what we actually want to, overall meaning of life. it can be a bit of an obstruction. Also, when we feel confused, we feel we don't understand, or there is a disagreement, difference of opinion, we both are not liking, and we feel that it's not working out.
Or if there's some kind of disconnect.
Yes. So, I've written on my website, on my blogs about how, disagreements can look like. My partner doesn't care for me. So there can be confusion because we're feeling hurt. And in that moment, we are getting into our own selves where we're wanting to feel better. So that our own internal feelings and emotions can get in the way as well.
And how do you think this practice would impact your relationship or perception in life?
When we have safety in relationships, in the most important relationship with a partner, it actually changes the perspective. The way you see the world, it's very different. We all know about this commonly portrayed in media, like when you're in love, everything looks colorful and vibrant, even rain looks beautiful, right? It's something like that, but on a different way. You feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
So even if there is a hardship or a challenge in life, you feel more equipped.
Mm-hmm.
You feel you have the capacity, the resilience, be able to overcome that or to face that together.
Yeah. So based on your experience, do you have any other recommendations of such practices that can be combined with this practice?
I always encourage my clients to, sort of have an agenda as well, especially for, it feels like it's a formal kind of a corporate thing, but I think having an agenda, documenting your feelings, knowing, putting all the questions if you're curious, using curiosity not as to question, it's like, I'm curious you did that or you said that. So again, you're using elements of kindness and respect, but you're being curious, you're documenting your thoughts to come up later and having an agenda. Okay, maybe this week looks like that. You can, have the longer conversations in the weekend and say, hey, how does our week look like?
Yes.
No, babes, lots of parties, stuff, working late. All right, cool. That's all right too. But when are the days we can sit, have a longer, short, as you said, DC? Was that
DC daily chats.
There you go.
And heart to heart, H to H.
So when in the heart to heart, in the H to H, you can talk about DC.
Yeah.
Where can we fit that in? Knowing that we want to have even a 10-15 minute check-in, and talking about that. And sometimes you just talk as you go. Maybe you're cooking, putting a meal together, but you're talking. Normally we'll feel so stressed. It's like a second shift begins, you finish work and you come back home. And then you're doing all of this. There's frustration and there's resentment. Why didn't you help me? And I have to do this. But if you're in this together somehow, we know we've connected. We don't feel like, as if you're doing it parallelly or against. It feels like even if we are washing dishes or loading the dishwasher, we're doing it together. And that can be a ritual. Is like, oh, we connect while we're doing chores. You would think, oh, well, can't be a couple's ritual, but it is a form of connection. And you can just incorporate and go as you do.
Absolutely. And I don't know if this goes the same for everyone, but I cannot rely on my memory. I cannot. I need to have things written down. So what I've been doing lately is actually creating meeting agendas for with the person that I'm seeing, because neither of us have a good memory. And it's been really, really good and helpful. And we do this in a very professional looking manner because it's kind of funny to do that.
That's right.
But maybe not everyone thinks that it's fun. So that might not apply to you. But if you find it funny, you can give it a try. Maybe it will help.
It's interesting because what you said. Sometimes I've noticed that when you said documenting, and I said, you document your thoughts and then just, let's bring it in a session and we can explore that. There would be a list of complaints. So what I mean, and it's happening to them and they are struggling really. And I can see the pain that they've gone through that. But when the partner sees that, it feels like they're not doing enough because they're going through pain as well. And this is especially when you are struggling or, finding it challenging to express and, So it's important that you document how you felt and take ownership. So taking accountability is very important. You own what you do. So when you take accountability, the other person doesn't have the responsibility to hold you responsible or remind you, hey, you need to do that. I want to do it and I'll take ownership.
The meeting agenda isn't for you to
you're
complain.
Loving it, aren't you?
It's I just that's not a place for you to complain. It's a place for you to be like, I want to talk about how I'm feeling about this certain thing, not to be like, you didn't do the dishes. You haven't been doing that for a week.
How I'm feeling about you didn't do the dishes. It's more about, me, what I felt and tell me what was going on for you.
Yeah. Now we're moving on to questions from the audience. Our first question is, what advice would you give for couples on rebuilding trust after a breach or betrayal of sorts?
It's very significant, and it takes time. Building trust will take time because you want to correct the experience now because it has been damaged. Yes, there is a reason and motive behind choices, and most of it is coming from various places and emotionally, vulnerable places. But trust will not be built the way that, we feel like we'll want to go back, but it's like going forward. There is always a little bit of, space for you to get hurt. It can never be 100%. But what is important is that you both are being there, for you to be present, for both partners to be there. The one who's been hurt, they're taking time to heal through the pain. And the one whose choices have hurt their partner are there with them to let them know, hey, I'm there. Even when you are hurting and I can't change that, I am feeling the pain because it's embarrassing, it's hurtful, and I'm feeling all of it, but I'm there and I'm not going away, to immediately soothe myself.
And how can couples balance the need for transparency and privacy when it comes to building trust in relationships?
It's very important. The boundaries are there. They're very important. It's not just physical boundaries, it's emotional boundaries as well. Transparency is very important in relationships. But sometimes you, assess what's it that you don't want to say. It's damaging to the relationship. That itself is telling you whether it's important that you tell them or not. Maybe it does, but in what way? Because it's not a set standard. What in the way that it'll damage the relationship if they say, and how will it damage if they don't say? It's not an easy answer. And you have to assess that for yourself, how much of it you want to be open. You can choose to do that. But then you also know that if you don't open, what may happen. So it's really up to you. And as individuals, we have the autonomy to choose. But any choice is not without their pros and cons. Now it will be up to the individual to decide or to, ultimately choose which is better. It's not one is good or bad. It's about two difficult situations. Which one makes more sense to me now?
Mm-hmm. And what advice do you have for couples who might feel that their relationship has become too routine or predictable? And how can they keep the rituals feeling fresh and meaningful?
So it's important that they, reassess it. And maybe it's become boring, and maybe they think that the ritual of connection is becoming a bit of a task. So they can bring some excitement by doing different things, by connecting in a different way, and it can become boring when you're not enjoying. So that's where the openness comes in. It's like, hey, I'm not finding it very, entertaining or engaging. But then again, it takes back to what's happening there. What's not, are you not engaged completely, or is difficult for you? That again calls for your H2H conversations where you open up and say, hey, we are doing these couple rituals, CRs or DCs over the week, but somehow I'm not engaging, or it's becoming boring for me. That conversation and listening and respecting and holding the space for what your partner is feeling is very significant. And if they do that, they're already excited, and there's anticipation that we're going to be spending time, how you're connecting with each other. Maybe sometimes the feelings feel jaded because of life and everything else. So maybe you're tired. You need a bit of a break. So all of these, with the openness and transparency, can keep going. It's not linear. It's actually cyclical. You keep doing it with repetition and come back to it and do something different. And again, look at it together and say, what's going on? Let's make some changes.
Yeah. And maybe you can do DCs or H2H without, with a twist, do like a, we can do H2H. We can try doing H2H without using the letter E. Maybe that will make it interesting, or look, I'm just trying my best.
Yeah, I know you are, but it's very important what you said there. I know we haven't talked about intimacy.
Yeah.
But emotional and physical intimacy is very important. So, everything that we are doing is either adding to it or taking away from it.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be for another day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you will see that this connection builds the intimacy, and everyone feel intimate in different ways. And all of that can feed into what we're already feeling. So there you go.
Thank you so much for answering my questions, Roohi. Now we're moving on to the open mic section, and this is your opportunity to talk about whatever you're passionate about, and it doesn't have to be related to the topic at all. So take it away, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Marie. Is it very predictable of me to say that I'm passionate about relationships?
Predictable, kind of, but understandable.
Okay.
It's understandable still.
I am definitely passionate about watching horror movies and watching anything with mystery, suspense, and murder mysteries, definitely. But that's again very predictable. But
Nothing
having
wrong
said
with
that,
predictable. Yeah.
from wanting to be an investigative journalist to wanting to be an investigator of emotions and mind, it's a journey that I've come across. I think I've traveled far. What I have realized and what's important for me is, I know, as I was saying earlier, we are in relationship with everything. It's our self. That's the first relationship. But the relationship that we build with ourselves is based on a template of when our parents build that relationship with us. And then what the relationship we have with us is actually manifests into our relationship with everyone else. Yeah. So relationships are important. What I am very passionate about is respect, understanding, listening to each other, being very kind. Doesn't matter who your partner is, who your friend is, who the world in general is. There's always a story behind. And I'm curious to know that story, to learn who you are, because I'm being selfish here. I'm learning a lot through learning you, through learning about others. And it's not from a place of, I'm just in the background and I will only learn about you. I will open up. I will be vulnerable. I will be vulnerable in friendships. I will be vulnerable in relationships. And I will tell you what I'm feeling. And it might mean that I'll get hurt. I have an opportunity, yes, not because someone will hurt me. It's normal that everyone is different. But my passion is very much centered on the core of, connection. And listening to each other with respect and being kind and really being there for someone if you can, and if you're not, being honest and saying, hey, this works for me or this doesn't. But when you are kind to yourself and when you are respectful, you will see that you give that to others as well. So for me, it's like, yeah, maybe that person isn't there where you are. We all are in different spots in the journey of life, and we all are coming from different places. We all traveled very far in different ways. We all have stories to tell. Everyone is as important as everyone else is, as you are. So no one is less or more. It's unfortunate that, rudeness and arrogance gets me a little bit. It's like, but even when that happens, I'm like, okay, there is a reason why they are being. Maybe they're not ready for this. They will take their time. They're in a different spot in their life journey.
Yeah.
So respect for everyone is very important, right from the time when a child is born to wherever we are at whatever stage in our life.
Sometimes it's just the way they speak. It could just be their tone and something that we have to kind of get to know a bit better before thinking like, oh, this person has arrogance or anything like that. But yeah, that's fantastic.
Great that you brought that up. I'm sorry I'm cutting you off, but you said something
continue,
I'm equally passionate about, is talking politely and nicely with a smile. Use humor where you can, where it's safe, but always being polite and with a smile, making eye contact, being humble, and knowing that every word we say, every move we make, it sounds like the song, but it's actually very impactful. It's going out in the universe. It's being observed and received by others. We are either building or it's chipping away.
Yeah, you're really good at making eye contact as well. Yeah. I feel like you're staring into my soul. And like with your voice, it's very like soft and soothing.
Thank
and
you.
I'm just like, I feel like I'm in some sort of session right now. Yeah.
I'm honored. I'm honored to be here and talking to you, and your presence is calming, I think.
Oh, thank you.
That's why
I barely get that. I always get like the opposite of calming. Like,
I'm seeing the calming side
thank
of you.
you.
I think it's making me
I
calm and
try.
connect with you more.
Yeah. That's great.
No, I mean it really.
All right. Thank you, Roohi, for joining us today. If our listeners want to find out more about you and what you do, where can they go?
Thank you, Marie. It was so much pleasure. I didn't realize I will have so much fun with you.
Likewise.
And I learned a lot. I hope my audience find value in what I shared. And they can reach me via my website, connectwithcounseling.com.au. They can jump on there. I've got my contact there or email, and they can write to me.
Amazing. That's connectwithcounseling.com.au. We'll link it in the show notes, along with her social media. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope you've learned a little bit more about what couple routines are and how they work, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
You've been listening to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. For more episodes like this from 10 different life management perspectives, search LMSL on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get updated on everything we have to offer. We have a wide range of topics readily available for you to check out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at re.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Marie Stella. Thanks for tuning in.